G'day everyone, and welcome to our second session on creating our tune Pantoja that I started a couple of days ago. And I've finished completing this session, and as I've exported it, my microphone had disconnected and I've lost all the audio of me talking over this. So I have a microphone now, and we're basically just going to see what I've done, and I'm going to try and describe what I'm doing over the top of all of this. But firstly, I had the sequence that I worked on and I decided to scrap it. So I worked on this for a fair bit, and I think I worked on it for 20 minutes when I was in the previous session, and I was like, oh fuck, that was way too long. And especially for a sound that I decided I didn't want. And so the direction that I have decided on was that I wanted to capture. I'm in the middle of the desert in Mexico. I'm staying in a bus on a farm with like nothing around me. I've got a dirt bike and some horses and farm animals. And I wanted to capture more of that in this song, I guess, melodically. And so, as you can see here, I've got these new ideas, and we're going to have a listen to them soon. And I've gone for more of an exotic flavor, and I'm going to change some of the notes. Yeah, so I did have a previous melodic section, and I wanted to change one of these notes to fit the same scale. Yeah, so moving that one note down was going to match this other melodic idea that I'd created just up here. So there's two. There's one with the guitar and another like synthy kind of sound, this one here. And I was just matching one of the notes that was off. So I couldn't tell you what scale this is, but we've basically got what, like an E, an E flat, and C and a B. And that's going to be like the focus melodically of this song. And I was just fixing up some of the notes on the previous clip so they matched melodically. So when we play them, it'll work. And yeah, so I was just moving some of these notes around so they do work together. And for the rest of this tune, we're going to be focusing on the mid basses. We're going to focus on two like 8-bar or 4-bar, two 8-bar sections, filling it out with a bunch of mid basses and sound effects. And I decided that I wanted to infuse some of these melodic ideas within the phrasing of all of that, so it was going to fit a bit better because I wanted some kind of melodic content in this tune, and I was just deciding how it would work. Like, would it be like a trance or a techno tune? But we're sticking to the psytech kind of style, and we have our reference track to help us do that. And I was also just deciding on where I would fit this melody in certain parts. Cool, so as you can tell, the track is sounding pretty good. I haven't really added anything from last session except for this little synth idea that I wrote at night. And I decided that I would put these in MIDI outside of the session here, just because when people are watching this, I wanted to make use of most of the time, which is hilarious, even though like my microphone hasn't worked and I've had to re-record these dub audio over the top of what I'm doing. It's very meta. I'm kind of watching myself trying to narrate what I was thinking at a time that is not now. But yeah, I was basically looking at this melodic idea and just describing that these notes are going to be the tonal center or the scale that we're going to use for this particular track. And I was also going to say that I will do more videos on musicality, on knowing what your tonal center is and scales and the right notes and blah blah blah. But essentially, like, I'm a guitarist and I've done music since I was 14. I'm a music teacher and I don't really have to think about this anymore. I know what sound I want and what I can hear, and my creative choices coming from that experience. So we'll go into it in a different video. But here we've decided that, yeah, I'm gonna start focusing on the mid basses in this tune, and so yeah, we're gonna start designing. Oh, that's right. I was picking these lingual neuro bass patches that I've created, and it's a whole bunch of notch filters and distortion, and I've mapped it out onto these knobs on the left there, and we're going to start automating all of those parameters to get a bunch of just a bunch of different sounds, and then we would smash it to audio to freeze and flatten it. And so basically I'm just making one long note here ready for us to start automating different things. Yeah, so I'm automating now. So we have those 8 knobs there, and I'm just automating this low notch filter. And the low notch filter is just to be focused around the 140 hertz and underneath is the area. We just want to be sweeping through the low harmonics. So that was obviously too loud, so turn it down. And we needed to be a couple of octaves lower. Yeah, cool. So we found some nice tones there and just repeated some of the areas. And yeah, now just moving on to more notches. So this notch filter was going to be looking after more of a higher spectrum, so above 140 hertz. And I was going to be doing a bit more extreme like peaks compared to the other one. Yep, so we got some new variations in sound there, and there's also one more notch that we're going to be playing around with, just for even more variation. So this is where we get all of our movement from, all these moving filters to create, variation in the sound. So I found a nice spot with some more automative peaks, and I decided to put more of them in there so we get more variation. Yeah, so this one is a low pass filter that's within Vital, and moving that around gives pretty drastic kind of changes. It's like a steaming train, this one, that really screeches, so there's some cool sounds coming out of it. So we got some nice variation out of that. And I also wanted to say that I'm not diving into how I built this rack. I'm going to do that in a different video, and I'll provide these for free for you to download. Yeah, so we're playing around with those FM, which is basically bringing in the volume of different oscillators, and you can hear them really screech against each other. And so the harmonic parameters are actually going through the harmonic series in Vital, and we covered this in one of my videos, and it's just giving us different tones, like higher and lower ones. So again, we finished automating all of those parameters, and we've got this nice log of bass with a lot of variation in it. And yeah, we're gonna freeze and flatten it. And I'm pretty sure while I was doing this, I realized that, oh no, I did take it out. So I found we moved that track outside of the sidechain group, so it wasn't we weren't flattening it to the sidechain. So I've moved it out of there. So when we do that, it means that we can take any bass bit and it's gonna fit, instead of having the like oomph, 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 you know, that dip where the kick drum is. And that would really limit us with the kind of chops that we're able to use. And so, yeah, we moved that back in now into the sidechain group, ready to chop up and create some ideas. And yeah, basically this whole session was just about me creating a bunch of sounds and putting in some different rhythms, and really trying to find a balance between these sounds and how they're interacting and how they're bouncing around, and trying to capture some of that real unique PSYTECH kind of vibes. And so I began to create some more sounds because I didn't want to just use that neuro. And I jump around a fair bit because that's just the kind of producer that I am. This kind of music's pretty chaotic, and you know, my workflow, I'm not someone who just sound designs and then mixes in different sessions. I do all of the shit at the same time. And that's how I've always done it. Except for, you know, if I've fully finished the songs and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a mix down session. But usually I want it to do that all together, because then if my track's sounding good from the get-go, then I'm kind of more inspired to keep writing it, you know? I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. So let's check it out. Let's keep doing that. So just putting in some rhythms and finding some kind of basis for this sound. Pretty sure I wanted a pluck, so I was, oh, that's right, I went to my pluck folder. So I decided to turn one of the oscillators off because I felt like we didn't need it, or it was a bit weak. And just finding the right rhythm. Yeah, cool. So I was happy with that as a pluck, and I'm probably going to re-listen to the song a couple of times and find the right space that to put that rhythm. And I also decided to recycle this, so I duplicated it, and I realized that this envelope was connected to 7 different things. And I was like, oh, I'll just turn it off and then we'll turn it into a longer bass. And then I decided to redo that because I had a better idea. Instead of taking the envelope off everything, I would just change the envelope from the pluck shape, which you'll see very, very soon from that triangle shape. And I just thought I would bring up the sustain so it's not plucking anymore. So then we can freely move around the cutoff filter and turn it into a longer bass tone. Yeah, cool. So I decided to remove the filter from that knob and then modulate that to give us more variations of tone. And I was pretty stoked with this as like our first sound, and I decided that we would keep on recycling this a fair bit because it's the first bass sound that we've introduced into this song, and so it would make sense that we make a lot of variations of that same sound instead of just overwhelming the listener with all these different kind of sounds straight away that might take away from the coherence of the track. So I decided that we would continue to continue to create more sounds and recycle from the original. It's really interesting watching this and having to talk over because I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? But we'll manage, and I'll make sure never to make this mistake again. With the mic, I can't believe the microphone didn't work. I finished and I was like, no, like I've just lost all of the audio over the top of this video, and now it's just gonna have to be me filling in the blanks. I can see when the audio is coming up and when I click play and there's sounds popping up on this. So we'll do the best we can, and I'll make sure that this never happens again. Yeah, so again, just making variations of this sound, and I think I wanted to do something different. Like I wanted to change the tone of this in some kind of way, and I was figuring out how. So I decided that I'm pretty sure I would use a reverb filter. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure at the end of this, I just wanted to change the tone of this final phrase. And I played around with that FM knob and I was like, nah, it's not really doing it for me. Or I was just deciding on, if I was happy with the rhythms or not of this phrase. So I found a cool chop and wasn't really happy with it there, so just placed it elsewhere to try and fit it in. So I think I listened to the original track to try and get some ideas of a groove because, I had a beginning and I still wasn't digging where it was. And so I'm just changing up the rhythms, I think, here to make it fit a little bit better. Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to have a bass hit in the beginning here, and I'm just moving them over and adjusting the rhythm. So I got lucky with that one. we were just adjusting some things, and I was like, fuck yeah, that works as a really great layer to the bass underneath it. And I just remembered that this was a neuro bass and it had all this sub information. So we chuck on the low cut filter on there and just made sure to remove all the lows from that. Yeah, I was describing that it was a layer and we used the top. And I thought I'd find some other cool chops in here and introduce some of them in the phrase as well. So again, I was just listening to our reference track and deciding on some sounds that I wanted to introduce, and I think I was listening to some sound effects in there that I was gonna look at creating and introducing as well. So I was listening to the track and each 8 bars, and I was actually seeing if there was any repeated like motives that existed within that song. And I found that there wasn't. Like a lot of it was different every time, and I was like, holy shit, like now you can see how much effort goes into creating some of this music. Because, I have songs that I've written for like, it's taken me like 40 hours to write. And I've even done sessions where I've fallen asleep and I've opened up my tune, pressed play and fallen asleep and woken up and was like, wow, that was the most pathetic like production session that I've had in my life, I literally pressed play, I fell asleep and I woke up and I got nothing done. And I was like, wow, if you're a music producer and you're not producing anything, then you're kind of doing a really shit job. So anyway, I realized that there was no repetition in every 8 bars, so I decided that we'd just get these 8 bars down, and then we're going to create a whole bunch of variation in the future. And yeah, at this stage, I thought it would be great to introduce some of those earlier melodic ideas that I had using those 4 notes for this more exotic kind of flavor. And so I was just looking at, different spots, how I would arrange this, and I decided that, yeah, I'm gonna make some MIDI clips here because I know I want that sound introduced a bit earlier. And so, yeah, I was just finding the little bits that I wanted. I wasn't going to use the whole phrase all at once. Yeah, so just arranging these sounds and finding little pockets for them to fit into with all of the basses moving around them so they gel together well. So that neuro bass was just it was just non-stop, so I moved it. And here again, we are just looking. I realized that I was putting the guitar in the wrong section, the wrong 8 bars. And I was like, fuck, like I've got to move it back there and now try and make it fit into the basses. So we got a first phrase, which was great, and then we're looking at grabbing some other elements and putting them in there as well. More of the second's melodic idea. So I'm pretty sure I was just I have no idea what I'm talking about in all of these breaks. I guess it's like for me to I'll try and narrate as much as what I was thinking at the time, but like I've no idea what I was talking about for this whole hour and a half. But essentially the concept was we had an amount of space, we're arranging our basses in it, and we're trying to find the right phrasing and space for all of it to fit. So I obviously felt something was missing, and I'm looking around and thinking about maybe the what I wanted to add there. I know I wanted a bass hit on the beginning, and I think that's what I'm doing here. I was just readjusting the rhythm and phrasing of everything because I still wasn't happy with it. Yeah, so I was really happy with this first hit that kind of whips into the rest of it. So for this part, I felt that this one of the basses needed a textural layer or a supportive layer. And so I spent the next few moments designing some kind of layer to support that bass because I felt like it could have had more texture or it wasn't sitting in the mix where I wanted it or it was sounding a little bit weak. So I'm probably going to open a synth and design another sound. I'm pretty sure I get Vital and find some kind of glork glunk wavetable. We'll see. I know I was looking at creating some actual sound effects. And sometimes when I get in the process of creating sound effects, I end up just designing a bass because I might find something that works. And I think I was just describing that you need to be a bit flexible with your productions, you know. You might be like, I'm going to make a sound effect and then come across a really cool bass and you use that. So I was very happy with this throaty bass that I found and thought it would be pretty dope to support the other bass. So here I thought that it would be cool to have that layer bounce from left and right, like do 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 do. And I started putting in all of this automation to see how it sounded. So in the end, I decided that was shit and I deleted it all. And I was exploring some other ideas of panning. And I decided I didn't like that one either. And so at the end of the day, I was looking just to make it fit in the mix a bit better, and I decided to put on my Haas rack. Yeah, I was happy with how it was. Decided on no panning and just wanted to make it a little bit wider to make it sit in the mix a bit better. And yeah, so that was that sound done. All it needed was some stereo widening for it to sit in the mix. And I was like, fuck yeah, that is a big win for me. And now we are continuing on with something. I'm obviously exploring the bass. Let's have a look. Ah, cool. So I used the pitch bend modulation wheel in Vital and pitch bent that last note up. So cool. I just wanted to add a nice delay to this guitar because I thought it was sounding a bit dry or a bit one-dimensional. Yeah, and I was just exploring some of the settings here. And I found a guitar preset that was for a telly, and I was like, of course the guitar preset would work on my guitar sound. And so that was a no-brainer, you know. If you're using a bass, probably chuck on a bass preset, you know, because that might work. If you're using a drum, maybe put on a drum presets are probably going to work better. But feel free to explore whatever you want because you can always mix it up, especially with this style of music. So yeah, I wanted to grab a little FX pop and throw that into the mix as well, just for some variation. And I just pitched this up, I think, because it was too low. And wanted some kind of little ending to this phrase here, so there might be some kind of 16th thing going on. And so, oh yeah, I started looking for some glitch samples because I wanted to add some more texture to the tune at this stage. Yeah, and I decided I wanted to support this with another one of the sounds. So I grouped them together and filled out the space with another chop. Yeah, and so this was in D, so we just pitched it up 2 semitones and then it would be perfect. And then I realized that there was a whole bunch of sub frequencies still in here. So probably going to get an EQ and put it on the group and chop all those low subs out because I didn't want them to clash with the sub bass, of course. And I just wanted to fill the rest of this out with some other sounds because the reverb chopped off and I was like, oh, I still want to finish the phrase with a couple of more little sounds here and there. I think another point I was making, which I'll get to after some of this audio, was to do with our sample selection and building a library. Yeah, so I was just looking through some crazy glitch samples and realized that a lot of them were not what I wanted. So I was looking elsewhere. Yeah, so I found some nice ones after all of that searching. And, now is just how do I put them together? Yeah, so I found this one that I did like, and I thought it would be able to complete the phrase there in the fill. And so I'm pretty sure at this point I was discussing the idea that to have a good workflow, you want to actually build yourself a really strong sound library and know where to find your sources from or your samples, because you could search forever, and never find the right sound. You might also know not how to make that sound. And so once you build yourself a library that's really, really beneficial to you and your productions, it means that it's going to drastically improve your workflow because you know where to look for. And you can get in the ballpark of like a sound that you're after. So I was describing that even though I'd only looked through one folder, I still found some samples that were usable that I can resample and manipulate in certain kind of ways to get a result that I'm happy with. And that had only occurred through a long time of, producing and building a library that is going to reflect my production goals, especially through writing certain tunes. And so, yeah, I was just reflecting on that idea that filter, like, if you have a whole bunch of samples in your library that you don't use, like, delete them. And so, yeah, I found one more that I thought would be cool to complete this fill. And from this point on, we're looking at some ideas on how to make an interesting fill. And so I decided to remove one of these sounds because I thought one of them was out of tune. It sounded out. I'm pretty sure it was the top one I ended up deleting. I thought I'd use operator to find out what pitch it's in. So I found out that it was in the right key, that first sound anyway. Yeah, so I decided to delete the top one because that was moving around and it didn't fit. And I think at this stage, oh yeah, I wanted to delete the sub under it, and I deleted something and it wasn't it, so I had to find the sub again. And delete the clap as well. Oh, and here I was going to turn this into an atmosphere, and I wanted to put a big reverb on it, and I'll explain what I do afterwards. You see, that actually sounded nice and that could have been completely usable, but I wanted to show another technique using Ableton's reverb. And so you can hit freeze and capture an incredibly long tail of atmosphere. That is a really nice technique that I display here. So I think I did it wrong. But anyway, I created a new track and put it on resampling and made the record button on so I can capture that. Oh, and I turned the sidechain off so it wouldn't be pumping the whole time. That's right. That's what I did. Still didn't get it right. And that time I did get it right. So we created this audio track and basically we pressed play on the sound, and as it was going through the sound we hit freeze, so it was creating this long reverb tail and atmosphere that's very, very usable in so many different ways. And so I recorded that for quite a while because, you know, some of the next little locators in this song like introduce atmospheres, so I was like, oh, perfect, we just created an atmosphere, so let's chuck it in there. And then I thought I would use a chop of this as well to try and fill out that fill that we were working on earlier. And then I decided, oh, oh yeah, I moved this little bit into the fill, and then at some point I'll turn the sidechain back on because I realized that everything was sounding fucked. And, you know, this bit was kind of okay. You know, the fill idea is there, but I still wasn't really happy with it. And I guess I'm deciding on certain ways on how to fill this out. Oh, that's right. I had this idea that I was going to use like some kind of tom rhythm, you know, that's like a pitched, plucky kind of sounds, and make some kind of rhythm or a fill with that. And I go into that. I think I get a tom sound and I chuck it into operator. So I thought that was lame. And decided that I'll just make my own in operator using some FM synthesis. So I guess at this stage, I'm going to create a little rhythm and generate a sound, which does turn into something that I want a little bit later. Yeah, I was going to use an arpeggiator. I don't think I end up using it. I think I just put in the rhythm that I want, and I was just going to... I was going for some kind of 16th note idea. Yeah, and so at this stage I was happy with that little idea that I created. And I was trying to make it fit, and I think at some point I end up just having that sound being played by one of the other patches. Yeah, so I was definitely happy with the sound and was going to adjust it a bit, and just I think, yeah, I don't know how long I play around for trying to change this. Yeah, so I added a saw wave because I thought it would thicken it up a bit, and then was getting to a point where I didn't like the tone of it anymore. Oh, that's right. I got to this point where I was like, are my ears fucking up or what's going on? Because I felt that like this motive wasn't. I felt like it sounded a semitone lower than it should have been. Yeah, and I was just describing that sometimes when I produce, I get to points where it's probably when I need to have a break, but I'm hearing the sub bass, you know, a semitone higher or lower than what it should be compared to other ideas in my song. And I was just describing that, yeah, I had to look at both of these sounds to really make sure that they were in the correct key together, because my ears sometimes do this funny thing where yeah, like even now that still sounds a little bit out. I'm not sure if it's a sound wave or something. So I just changed the wrong thing. I was gonna change that little bump bucket that got the gong and see your semitone up or down. And so yeah, I just had to move it around to really make sure that it was fitting with the rest of the song. And I decided, because I was hearing this confliction, that I would remove the sub bass. And I'm pretty sure because I was having issues with hearing this in the mix, I moved it elsewhere to a patch that I'd already created. Yeah, so now after moving that to the new patch, I was really happy with it. It sounded, I don't know why I went on such a tangent and thought it was off tune, but that's what happened. So, yeah, I was happy with the sound. I thought it could still be thicker, like heaps thicker in the mix, and then realized that it still had the sub info in it, I'm pretty sure. So I just EQ this and maybe put a saturator on it to get it to set in the mix a little bit better as to how I wanted it. Yeah, so we're getting close to finishing this fill, and I just wanted to add one more layer. Yeah, and decided that one band saturation was the best. Because the other setting was too high, the other one was too thick, and that one was just right. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm looking at putting in a snare roll here. So I'm probably going to look for a snare roll as a sample so I don't have to create it for myself. Ended up didn't liking any of them and making it myself anyway. Yeah, so I found some cool snare rolls. They were all acoustic, and I was just like, meh. And it was a meh moment. And I just decided to do my own. So I'm probably going to chuck in some 16th notes. Yeah, and I thought that I would have the snare roll from earlier before that fill. Which was a cool idea. I don't think I ended up executing it and ended up deleting it later, but the idea was that I would have this big roll going up into that fill, it all stopping, and then we would have that little synth and then we're going back into the next section of the drop. So we'll just see what happens here. I'm pretty sure I just find a sample somewhere of a snare, chuck it in a sampler, and do some automating to it. We'll just have to wait and see. So we got lucky there. First snare sample from that sample pack was the shit. So we chucked that in. And now I'm just going to EQ it. We're going to filter the sounds up. And at some point change the velocity of it. So it's all just not this stagnant, same volume snare every 16th beat. Because that's, you know, it's a bit boring. And we chucked on the OTT for good measure because that always is a hoot. Yeah, so I was just exploring some modulation effects because I wanted to create a new kind of tone to this. And wanted to add this little flange on the end that I decided no one would ever hear except for us. Oh, and then we're just putting in some variations in the velocity. I wanted like duck, 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 duck. I wanted some kind of rhythm that I was just accenting. Obviously, the high volumes are the accents, the low ones are the low ones. Yeah, I don't know why I was trying to select all these velocities and duplicate it. When I was just like, I'm an idiot. Like, I should just select the notes that are on the top, which is what I ended up doing anyway. And we just needed to filter this to complete it. I think I'd end up deleting the first part and just keeping the second snare bit. So I just had to tame this neuro a bit. And so, yeah, we adjusted that neuro bass there because it was just this overwhelming wall of fuzz and filtering. So we chopped it up a bit and we're just arranging the second part a bit. And yeah, I'm just playing around with this to get it to sit a little bit better. Just some small articulations of the filter and where I wanted this to be placed. Yeah, so I wanted to add more texture to this final little sweep and was trying to find some parameters to add that. And I played around with the FM and I ended up not liking the FM. So I decided upon using the reverb filter, I believe. So I thought that I would add a filter on the end of all of this, and I just wanted to describe what the filter reverb was. So we have our low pass filters and high pass filters, as I'm probably gonna describe without changing it because I didn't want to have to go through the hassle. But yeah, okay. So we have high pass and low pass, and I was just describing what the reverb filter looks like, which is a lot of really sharp peaks and modulations. And so when we turn the resonance up, and we're sweeping through that, we're getting it's doing a lot of crazy shit to the tone. So I knew that this was something that I could do to get the result I wanted. Yeah, cool. So I was just showing there that when we added that reverb filter, it was changing the volume drastically. So I put the loud max on there, and you can see that it was going down to about -6. It was adding 6 dB volume, which we saved the mix from. cool. So I was pretty happy with the phrasing that we had finished up on. You know, we'd done a little fill, we've created some sounds and sound design, and I just had a few more gaps that I wanted to complete before we move on to, ending the video. Because we've obviously gone over our hour, but I decided that I really wanted to finish the phrase. Oh, that's right. And I was describing that as a producer, one of the main points I wanted to make was that not everything we do is going to be unique and new every single time we produce. And I was comparing it to playing guitar or improvising as a jazz guitarist. All of the licks and stuff that you play when you're improvising live are going to be things that you've rehearsed, and that's like your behavior. And only 10% of it might be new. And the same thing applies with this program. This is kind of our instrument, and the way that we practice is going to define the behavior that we have on this program. So we're going to use a lot of the same techniques. And here I'm using a technique that I use all the time because it works for me and I get some cool results. And so I guess the journey is, when learning this program, is to train yourself to have the freedom within the program to try new things. So you are becoming more unique each time you produce instead of relying on the same techniques, because that's only going to get you, it's probably going to get you similar results if you're using the same techniques. So the more techniques you learn means that you're going to be able to change your behavior within the program and also give yourself the opportunity to come across more unique sounds. And it's through this process of exploration that we're actually going to find all of those little nooks and crannies that we haven't explored yet. So yeah, we can get new sounds. So that was real spicy, boy. So I was just I was using step on Vital to create a 16th note pattern, and it was sweeping through the spectral morph option, which we covered in our sound design module on the Patreon. And a lot of the techniques that I'm using throughout this things that we've covered within the course. So like if you do cover the whole course, then you come to this and you watch it, you're going to be like, you should know a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. Obviously, you might not have developed a workflow that's close to mine yet, and I encourage you to find your own and what works for you. This is a nice opportunity for you to see how I work, and this is not the same with every song. Some songs kill me to death, like I'll get stuck on them for months and be like, am I even gonna finish this thing, because I have to decide how much energy I'm putting into it all. So we were real underwater with this one. So here I was just exploring this sound and trying to get it a bit brighter, and I was like, oh, why is it doing what it's doing? And how do I reduce this hum beneath it? So we're just trying to beef this guy up. And I thought maybe if we put the filter underneath, it'd be a different tone. Yeah, so I found moving that up a couple of octaves was sitting better in the mix. So always experiment with the register that your sounds are in. So I decided that I'd put on cluster delay, which is from Minimal Audio, which is a really unique delay, and I'm just flipping through presets to find something cool. Yeah, so I was just exploring the effects chains and the order of them, because putting a rift on there made this real nice, like this spicy hi-hat kind of delay kind of thing, and I thought it was sick. And I wanted to see what it sounded like with cluster delay after the distortion, and it removed it. So I decided to put it before there for that reason. And, you know, this is another thing to do also. I've touched base upon the order of your effects chain, and you can get cool results doing things differently. But I will still stick to this rule that saturation, EQ, and limiting is the best three that you can have. Because that just, it makes things work really, really quickly and easily. And so there you have it. That was our efforts after this session, and I was pretty stoked on that.